Most entrepreneurs believe that if they just create enough content, something good will eventually happen. More posts, more videos, more podcasts. But for many, nothing actually changes. No new clients, no meaningful growth, no real return on time invested. So the question becomes, what if the problem isn't how much content you're creating, but why you're creating it in the first place? What if content by itself isn't the strategy? What if the real objective isn't content at all, but demand? Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. Today's guest, Chris Anderson, has built his business around that exact idea. Chris is the founder and CEO of Elevate Media Group, where he works with entrepreneurs to turn podcasting and content into a client acquisition engine. In the first segment of the episode, we'll explore Chris's entrepreneurial journey, what led him to start his business, the challenges he faced early on, and most importantly, what he learned along the way. In the second part of the show, we'll dive into the real topic at hand, why most content fails to deliver results, and how to shift from simply creating content to actually creating demand. Because in the end, content doesn't build a business, demand does. And it all begins right now. Stick around. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Chris, let's start at the beginning, shall we? Take me back to the very beginning where, what were you doing before Elevate Media Group, and what pushed you toward this crazy, insane idea of leaving a perfectly good job and jumping into the cold end of the deep pool in entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So prior to starting a business, becoming an entrepreneur, I was actually an athletic trainer. So that's what I went to school for, was helping athletes in the high school, middle school setting, moved into industrial athletic training. So helping, these blue collar individuals who are shaping our country and building the country, helping them stay healthy and continue to be able to spend time with their family and do the work they're set out to do. And, I started looking at the future and seeing people in my career that were older, 20 years older than me. And I was like, I don't think I want my life to look like that in 20 years. And I just been getting into personal development and entrepreneurship even more, and really saw that there's more potential out there. There's more ability for me to kind of create my own life and take a chance on me and try to build something different. And so that's what I did. And in 2020, I quit my job with nothing coming in, nothing started besides my podcast. And right when COVID hit, so it was a wonderful time to do that here in Indiana. And
great timing,
the rest
Chris.
is kind of history. Yeah. I know, perfect timing there. But that was, the rest is kind of history after that.
So was there a very specific moment? The way you described it, you kind of just slowly morphed into, entrepreneurship. Was there like a single defining moment, like a bad day at the office, so to speak, or an epiphany or anything like that where you just went,
kind of a mix of those. Yeah, kind of a mix of those both really. Had a year where it was just really rough for my wife and I, family-wise. I lost my last grandparents, my last grandmother at the beginning of the year, and then she lost her last three in a span of a month, the end of that same year. And so four grandparents gone in a year, and the job I worked for was like, hey, you've already used all your bereavement. You have all your, you don't have any more time off. Holidays are scheduled, all that stuff. So you're not able to use anything time off wise. I was like, I'm going, because my wife's from Texas. I said, I'm going to Texas to be with my wife and her family in this time. I was like, I'll do it unpaid. I don't care. Thankfully, they worked with me. I changed some holiday time in Christmas, and instead of taking that holiday, I used it there and things like that. But it was just a reminder of like how finite life is and how we're not promised tomorrow. Yes, our grandparents were older, but we had some other losses close to us that were unexpected, and it was just a reminder of that. Like, life is short. Why not?
Why wait? Right?
Why wait? Why not take a chance? And if anything, I could go get another job. And I just actually went before that, like the year before, no, see, that happened first. And then I went to Toronto to listen to Bob Proctor. So the spring after all those losses, so the next year, 2020, and listen to Bob Proctor talk. He is now passed, but was talking about the same kind of thing, like taking a chance on yourself. He talks about vibration a lot and energy and things like that. But what resonated with me a lot was taking a chance on myself. And the drive home from Toronto is about 9 hours. And faith is a big part of my journey, and really just had been hearing or feeling God telling me to kind of take that leap. And that was kind of the cherry on top moment where I really just felt like I heard him saying, hey, trust me, like, oh, there's something else out there that I want you to do. And I called my wife on the way home. She's a math teacher. So she's like, A plus B doesn't equal C. You quit your job. Like, that doesn't match. I was like, I get it. Let's take some time, pray about it, think on it together. And if we're on the same page, then it's probably what I need to do. And if not, maybe it was just a selfish ambition inside. And a couple months later, she's like, hey, I think you're supposed to quit your job. I was like, oh. So that was a really surprising revelation moment for me, because she's, usually very reserved, not as big a risk taker as I am. And and that's when I gave my work a month's notice, and that was, the rest was history there. So that was the kind of the culmination of hard things happening that made me realize life is short, and just feeling the tug to lean into entrepreneurship.
You mentioned your wife said to you, kind of the way you described it, kind of almost out of the blue, like, why don't you just quit your job? Do you think there's been a time in building Elevate that she said, what was I thinking when I told Chris, why don't you just quit your job? I mean, I say that almost tongue in cheek, but still, I mean, we all have second thoughts once we're in the process of building a business. Like, what was I thinking? Did that ever happen to you or your wife?
Oh, 100%. For me, I know for sure, and I'm sure she thought it. But if someone is starting a business and they've grown anything, and they say, "Oh yeah, I never had those moments of despair or doubt," they're probably lying.
Yeah, I agree.
Or they haven't actually built something, because
or you found the one unicorn out there that just everything was rainbows and unicorns, right?
Yeah, but even then, like, you're going to go through the valleys and the low points of like, oh, is this actually going to be sustainable? Is this actually going to continue to grow? And there's definitely those moments, and we, even today, still have those moments. Like, oh, is this going to last? Like, what do I need to innovate? Or, still those self-doubt kind of things you have to kind of battle. But yeah, there was definitely the valleys. I mean, I quit my job and had nothing, no income. And I was trying to, figure out what I was going to do in business. And it was like, the podcast had been doing okay, as far as a new podcast goes. And people were coming to me asking, how did you do that? How do you edit all that? And so I would take jobs and be like, I just need the money. So here, I can do that for you. And it just kind of blossomed from there to Elevate. But Tell
me about the podcast.
Normal.
What was the podcast about, particularly back then?
So it basically is the same premise. It just name changes, and we're actually coming up to change the name again, just for marketing ease, I guess, and streamlining of marketing and SEO. But interviewing business owners, successful business owners who have accomplished things. So one, I could learn from them, and hopefully shorten my ramp into entrepreneurship. And also be able to share with other people. And I love people. I love learning about their journeys, their stories, and learning in general. And so it's like a perfect thing for me, and be able to do it virtually. Could talk to anybody around the world. And so that's where it started. And it's thankfully has grown quite well, and been able to talk to some really cool people, Olympians, $1 million business owner, $1 billion business owners, like just crazy people I'd never thought I would connect with. But to give them a platform has opened those doors, and it's created more business for me. It was started out called the Pencil Leadership, and a whole story behind that. And it just got to the point where people asked too often, what does that mean? What is that? And I had to explain it too many times.
You got a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah. So shifted from that, got to Elevate Media Group, which we're shifting from again, so we can be even more clear on what the show's about. It was just the simplest thing with the business being called Elevate Media Group. So Elevate Media Podcast, we're shifting away from that shortly. But yeah, it's been a great adventure, taking me across the country, interviewing people. And again, yeah, it's kind of been the catalyst to business too. So
You mentioned that you enjoy hearing entrepreneurs' stories and about their journey. I That's one of the great perks of sitting in this chair. I get to do the same thing, and one of the things that I really take away from the show, and I'm sure you do too, is I started my business 34 years ago. I still own it.
Wow.
Only today they pay me to stay away. My team runs the company. I'm just the old crazy
That's awesome.
founder now, but I would, over the years, kick myself over the stupid bonehead mistakes I made in my earlier days and how much money it cost me or how much it delayed, getting where I am today. And I consider myself a pretty smart guy. I'm in the tech world. I designed all the equipment we sell. So I'm thinking, well,
Awesome.
that's not easy, right? But I just screwed up business. I didn't know anything about business, and it showed. And now I look back at some of the decisions I made in my early days with cringe. It's like, oh my God, what was
Right.
going on with me?
Yeah.
So I would beat up myself a little bit. As I started talking to entrepreneurs, I'm like, oh my God, Chris made the same stupid mistakes I made. I mean, it's like I'm not alone.
Right.
And I realize that, for those who are watching or listening, who maybe are in that, why did I do this moment?
Yep.
It's curriculum. It's
Yeah.
like joining a branch of the military. You've got a drill sergeant, and I call the drill sergeant the business gods, and I mean that metaphorically, not
Yeah.
religiously. And
Sure.
and because I don't think our God would be so twisted as the business gods can be, right? Business
Yeah.
gods are pretty ruthless, and
Yep.
and they teach you lessons. So the process of just survival in business involves
Oh yeah.
going through fire, metaphorically,
Yep.
and
Yep.
learning. And it's almost like you've joined a branch of the military, and the business gods are the drill sergeants, and their job is to break you and rebuild you into a proper business person. And it's tough at the time because you're like, what's next? God,
Oh my.
what is
Yeah.
next? Right? Really?
It's so true.
Yeah.
You look back at like the problem we have, like whatever problem you're facing right now along your journey, like you look back to the previous ones you had, and I'm like, man, can I go back to those problems? They were a lot easier. It always
Right.
seems worse in the moment
Yeah.
until you get through it. And I think, if owning a business, actually having a business, running a business was easy, everyone would do it. Like we've all heard that. And a lot of people, they right now they just have a second job, and sometimes I feel like that. I mean, I'm 5 years in. I don't have multiple people on my team. I have a few people to help, and which I'm thankful for there even. And it's just, I mean, yeah, I love it because I can talk to business owners, like to your point of, okay, they went through the same thing, or new levels, new devils is what one of them had told me that really resonated with me. It gives me hope. Like, okay, I just got to keep going. Like, I just got to outlast.
I like that phrase. I like that phrase.
Yeah.
New levels, new devils. I liken it along the exact same line. I liken it to a video game where you start with 5 lives on level 1, and then by the time you pass level 1, you've got 3 lives left. And level 2 is harder than level 1, and then level 3 is harder than level 2. And the next thing you know, you're out of lives, and there's new trapdoors, new devils, as you mentioned. That's a good way to put it. What were some of the early challenges? We're talking about all the challenges and the business gods and all that. What were some of the early challenges you face when trying to get traction with Elevate?
Yeah, the biggest one probably would be focusing on the needle movers and not just chasing the shiny objects. So actually spending time on things that actually grow the business and not just make you feel like you're being productive. Because a lot of times we're just busy and not productive. And so focusing on what's efficient, what actually moves the needle. For a lot of people, that's, that's getting on the phone, that's calling people, that's sending messages, that's, building relationships. A lot of people want to tweak their logo or tweak their website or, post another piece of content, which content's great, but you've got to be, you got to be filtering in people into your pipeline. and continuing that process until you have a good machine that's, automated or digital that can kind of do most of that work for you. But at the beginning, are you focusing on the needle movers and not just being busy, which was one, I had to realize and work over. And also realizing too, like, there's pressure that comes with it. Obviously, I had a family, I was married, then I had kids. And so, there's pressure with it, like to feed your family and they rely on you for those things. And, but also
you
remembering,
can't
like,
screw this up, Chris. Yeah.
Right. Well, but also realizing, like, giving yourself grace and, like, if this doesn't work, there's the next thing. Like, I could go get a job. Like, I could work harder than anyone in, some sort of home service thing. So I could work hard and get a job. Like, at the end of the day, it's not life and death. Like, there's people out there fighting for our freedoms. There are people trying to, protect us on the streets, as far as police and things, firemen running into fires. Like, I'm trying to build a business, and make money. It's not life and death, and I can always go do something else. So, like, balancing that of, like, yes, like, this is, like, so important that I want to build it and I want to hit my goals, but also remembering, like, don't let it destroy your soul and destroy your health just from the anxiety that it could put on you was another one. So
one of my mentors taught me to make peace with the worst. What does that mean? I'd be afraid to make a decision because it's a scary decision. It could go south.
Yep.
And she would look at me and say, well, what's the worst that can happen? Will it kill you? Will it physically kill you? Well, come on. No, it's not going to kill me. Okay.
Yep.
Will it guaranteed kill your business? Will this cause your business to fail if the idea is bad?
Right.
Well, probably not. Okay. What's the worst that can happen? Well, we'll lose money. Okay. Make peace with that.
Yeah.
Do everything you can to make sure it doesn't happen, but come to terms with the worst case. It'll be embarrassing. You'll lose money. It'll set you back on your timeline. You'll look silly to your competitors. You might disappoint your investors if that's the case. Okay. Is that it? And I would just be like listing off all the things that could happen realistically. And she's like, that all you got? I'm like,
right.
Yeah.
We focus too much on what other people are going to say or think of
all
us.
Of that.
That's where it comes down to.
The drama lives in our head, Chris, right?
Yeah.
It's way more than it does in reality. And I think once we express it verbally, like, okay, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this won't happen, this won't happen.
Right.
Although it might feel like it's happening, it actually won't happen. Once we come to terms with the reality of a failure, it's not so scary. Do everything you can to not fail, but just make peace with if it does fail, okay, dust yourself off, recalibrate. What did I learn?
Yep.
Exactly. My best decisions were made after failure.
100%. Yep.
It's like when you bake a cake, you need, eggs and flour and, whatever. And I think the recipe for success in business is 2 parts experience, 2 parts luck, 2 parts divine guidance, and 3 parts prior failure.
Yep.
You need that in there. It's like a bitter in a cocktail. It's like, it's not good on its own, but when it's mixed with everything else, it's just one of the essential ingredients. Because
it's like guardrails along the way, right? Yeah, failure, those guardrails of like, oh yeah, I've been down this path before, and I know now not to go that way because that's not going to turn out so well, or things to look for, markers, things like that, for sure.
You mentioned the word earlier on, shiny objects. Chasing shiny objects.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my team all accuses me of that. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs have in common is our brains are wired a little bit differently, and we do chase shiny objects. We are very interested in the new project and maybe less interested in the detail of finishing projects. And I would imagine your wife, when she watches this or listens to this, she's going to go, he knows you, Chris. He knows you because all entrepreneurs are wired the same way. We tend
Yeah.
to like to create. We're very conceptual. We're not overly logistical. And
Right.
sometimes we get bored after 80% of the creative process is done. And then as soon as it starts getting tedious, we kind of move on to the next project. And at
Yeah.
least that's me. And a lot
Yeah.
of entrepreneurs I've spoken with have said the same thing. Entrepreneurship often looks glamorous from the outside.
Right.
One of the goals of this show, one of the many goals of this show, is to kind of de-romanticize entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Only not to discourage people from becoming entrepreneurs or executing their entrepreneurial drive, but to give them a realistic view. If people think
100%.
that it's all rainbows and unicorns and like, oh my God, Chris, you're so lucky. You own your own business. You can write your own checks. You can take all the time off you want. You don't report to anyone. I would say to that person, stay at your day job because
Yep.
there's nothing like that in reality.
Yeah.
What was something that about your journey that people just don't see? Maybe your friends or your customers and your colleagues don't really
Yeah.
appreciate about what you've gone through building your business.
Yeah. I mean, I think they don't. That's a good question because it's so different for everyone, and I don't want to necessarily like point people out. But there are people I know. They have businesses. Their businesses were already created. They were already solidified. In the community or whatever, and they just stepped in. They took over. Or they're franchise, so they're business owners, kind of. And I say that with a preference, like yes, they're business owners, but a system was already created. A successful system was already created,
Right.
that they just had to follow and lead. Starting from zero, scratch, nothing is a whole different thing. I tell people, I said, if I do this again or my next business, I will not start from nothing. I will buy a business that's already doing okay and I'll make it better. Because it's just a whole different ball game. And it's the fact that people don't realize like how much sacrifice it takes to start a business from nothing. The amount of times we're at zero in the bank account, sometimes negative. The debt to try to put into the business to get things rolling. The sleepless nights, and then add having toddlers to that. That were there, like on top of that. I don't know if I've taken a vacation, like a legit vacation since starting a business. Do I get to travel? Absolutely. Do I have times where I can kind of relax? Sometimes. Am I working on any quote unquote trip or vacation? Yeah, 100%. Still have to do things. I'm like I said, this fall will be 5 years officially with Elevate. So, missing things. You have to try to find a harmony. So like I try the best I can. My oldest will be 5 in the fall. And so, there's not a lot of activities going on that I would quote unquote miss, but doing my best to be at my wife's volleyball game she coaches or spending time with the kids and building, harmony. So something it has to give, right? You only have so many hours. Building a team can help with that. But so for me, sleep is a sacrifice. There's always going to be something. And so the weight that you put on yourself as a business owner to fulfill what you're giving the clients so they can have the results, so they can grow. I think they just miss those things and think, oh, you start a business. Okay. You're going to make a bunch of money. You have your own schedule.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, which that is part of the nice part of it. I can create my schedule how I want. And, it's just a lot of weight that comes with it that you have to kind of realize before you start.
Yeah. What was there a moment when things at Elevate just started to click and you felt like, okay, I got some momentum here. This is real.
Yeah, it's a crazy process, and that's something I think entrepreneurs starting out, like, you definitely have to remember is like actually looking at your successes, looking at, what has been accomplished along the way and remembering those, because we can get so caught up on what's next and everything like that we forget, we've accomplished these things. But I would say, just within the last year or so, I'm like, okay, we've got some good stuff. We've got some good stuff coming. We've got some great stuff going on. Now we're starting to make these bigger connections. Like the momentum, the ball is slowly starting to turn a little bit faster, right?
Right.
Been able to do work for some bigger clients. Made some really huge relationship connections in the business world. So like, yeah, just last couple of years has been really seeing some fruit, I guess, from all the hard work. And still got a ways to go to hit goals, but yeah, it's a promising thing, and it's been fun, which is always good. So
Yeah, it's when I was a kid, I live in California. When I was a kid, we'd go to Disneyland, obviously. And back in the day, when I was young, it wasn't like pay one outrageous admission and go on all the rides, included in the price. You had to buy a book of tickets, like a carnival. And the tickets were all categorized into the type of ride. So there were A tickets, which were boring rides, Sleeping Beauty's Castle, things like that. And then B tickets, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And then all the way up to E tickets. E ticket was Matterhorn. And
oh, wow. Okay.
Space Mountain and, the good rides. So in my generation, we grew up with the phrase, oh man, this is an E-ticket. Meaning
nice. Yeah.
It's the top ride. It's a roller coaster.
Yep.
This is it. This is the nirvana of all experiences. This is an E-ticket. And I think that entrepreneurship, building a business, is definitely an E-ticket. In terms of, it's very much like a roller coaster. There's so many similarities there. There's highs and lows and scary moments and fun times, and it turns your life upside down, and then right side up, and change falls out of your pocket. It's just very much like a roller coaster. I can't compare it enough. So you focus heavily, Chris, on podcasting as a business tool. I can see from your studio, I can see from that nice mic, your on-air sign, that everyone has to have an on-air sign behind them. That's like a requirement. It's a checklist item. I can see that, you put some effort and some money into some equipment, and that's only what I see from your camera view. Your camera looks pretty good too.
Thank you.
What do most entrepreneurs get wrong when it comes to their concept of podcasting, maybe starting a podcast or other types of content creation?
Yeah. So this is a great question. I like this question a lot. A lot of the conversations we have is around ROI. My podcast is not giving me ROI. It's just I'm just spending money on it. I'm like, you've got to think long term. And you've got to look at it as a tool. You're adding value. You still post on social media. It's free, yes. And podcasting doesn't have to be a huge money burner, but, what are you doing it for? What's the goal? How are you setting it up to bring value? And then so long term, it can start making you a little bit of revenue, at least to cover itself. But that was a big one. It's like the ROI. People want to see the ROI immediately. And the ROI they think will be direct revenue. When it's just, yes, it can have direct revenue, but it's not going to be much for most people. It's more what relationships are you able to start, whether through the listener or the guest, that can then flourish into more business down the road. And that's the direction I've always taken and what I kind of guide people with when we're talking about podcasts, because I think it's so crucial still today, especially the video side of it, especially with AI content that can just be, abundance of that out there. We're going to want more and more real people, real conversations, being able to have that connection, and see people with the video content. And just remembering the ROI is the value. And I think it's probably gone up since last time I checked, but people have to see like 7 hours of video content from you, content in general, before they even maybe consider what it is you offer, because they want to build that trust. Because so many people have just been burnt from the pushy ad, quick stuff out there. So there's a piece for it, and that ROI is, trust, and it's community, and it's leverage through that data of who listens and things like that.
I'm glad you added that, because when someone will ask me, how much money do you make off your podcast?
Right.
And I'm not being coy or evasive with the answer. I'm like, well, how do you define that? Let's change the question to, what value do I get from doing this podcast?
Yep.
Money is one form of value. Trust, as you said, is another currency. Authority is another currency. Influence is another currency. And then, of course, there's traditional currency.
Right.
I have a couple of podcasts. I have a few podcasts. One of them is in my technical space, the electronics manufacturing industry. That's a very nerdy, egghead, down the technical rabbit hole podcast. And that has done more for my business, driven companies to my business. And I never talk about my business. I don't have any direct link between my business and that podcast. I don't say, hi, I'm Mike from such and such company. I don't accept sponsors. I don't run ads. And people will go, why are you just doing this? Is this some philanthropic move to help your industry? Well, that's part of it, but it's savvy, because my industry knows very well who I am. A lot of that through the podcast. And it just creates authority. It creates trust that, okay, he's not trying to sell me something. He's never even mentioned what he does. And I think that is priceless. It's hard to put an ROI on that. If I could turn you, if you had never podcasted before, if I could turn you into someone people look forward to seeing or hearing every week or every month or whatever your frequency is, what's that worth to you, right? How much of that flows to your business? How much of that flows to your bottom line? It does. It's hard to quantify, but it 100% does. So, and then there are the models that I'm sure you work with these as well, that are designed for revenue, right? There are sponsorships and ads and calls to action and things like that. Nothing wrong with that. But I think that if people think that's the only reason they should do a podcast, think a little wider, think a little bigger.
The people who focus specifically on how much money will this show make me will not last.
No, well, they'll be very disappointed.
With all certainty.
They'll be very disappointed with their, particularly if they sign up for the podcast distribution. I use a company, for those non-podcasters out there, you have to have a host that hosts the podcast, and then they send it out to the million other podcast sites. It's quite an incestuous business, this podcasting business. I release it to one company, and the next thing you know, 1,000 podcast sites have it instantly. But they always, I think all of the major sites offer to run commercials on your show, where they will just find a spot and they'll throw a 30-second commercial in, and you get a percentage of that. I've never done that, but from what I've heard from fellow podcasters, unless they're Joe Rogan or something, I mean, they're going to get 2.5 cents a week, from that, unless they've got huge subscriber bases. But it's don't do it for that. You'd make more money just shaking you'd make more money shaking your couch for loose change than you would doing stuff like that. I mean, even our show, like, we might make $300 a month from that type of like automatic ad placement through the network we use. We get more, we do charge some guests depending. Just we have to kind of delineate. We have so many people pitch to be on the show. That kind of separates some, and then some we can just say, hey, do it for free. Like,
but like to separate who are actually serious or who just want to pitch their product or
Right.
service or book instead of actually adding value. So that's one way we've separated a little bit of that. Now it still makes us a little bit of revenue from it, but nothing crazy. In-person episodes are a little bit more expensive. We charge for just because we have to travel,
Yeah.
production fees on top of that. But even ours are super low relative to some that we've been asked to pay for to be on. So that's nothing like we don't rely on that. You know, it's nice when it comes in every now and then. We're just now starting to put some one sheets together for like sponsors type things, but we're going to be super critical on who, you know, those sponsors are. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't the like when I started the show, that wasn't the reason. I would never thought I was going to make money from it. I just thought I'd be able to learn and hopefully be able to build a business faster and help other people along the way. And it's just, you know, thankfully we've been able to have some of it, revenue come from it. But again, it's nothing crazy. So,
Learning
just been
from your
blessing, I
guests
guess,
is
to have
another
it.
form
Yeah.
of currency too. We talked
Yeah.
about all the
Oh,
different
100%.
forms of currency. That's something that
Yeah.
I failed to mention. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Connections. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. From a networking standpoint, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you and I both get to talk to some pretty amazing entrepreneurs. You know,
Yeah.
that in some cases the world already knows about, and I'm talking to them. Right? It's like, how'd
Right.
that happen?
Mm-hmm.
How do you turn a podcast from just content into a true client acquisition channel? Now that's a huge question that has a lot of
Yeah.
caveats to it. But in general
Yes.
terms, what do successful podcasts from a client acquisition standpoint kind of have in common with each other? What are they doing right?
Yeah. I mean, they're doing right is they're keeping people engaged. I mean, some of the biggest podcasts out there are entertaining, right? Joe Rogan, you know, Diary of a CEO, um, Modern Wisdom. So they're all kind of, I would say, a little bit more generic, a little bit more general topics. But they're entertaining. Their guests are entertaining. They tell stories. They create value in the episode, so you could walk away and implement what they're talking about in some of them, and benefit from it, or you just feel good. You listen to Joe Rogan, and it's a funny thing. A lot of times, or it's intriguing. I mean, it's entertaining. So setting it up where people continue to watch and come back, obviously having really big name guests help with that when you're marketing, because you want to hear from their sides, things you don't always
Sure.
get to hear about if they're an actor or a comedian. So like you get a little bit more background on them. That always helps. But having a good flow, best you can to keep people listening, to provide, an answer or some value from the episode so they can either feel motivated, they can have what the next step is and whatever that topic is, or they feel more equipped to tackle, whatever they're looking at in life. And so having that as the outcome, and then a call to action is always good, whether that be the next step is just to follow the show and keep listening. And then when you have something else you can put into it to direct them, or the next step, like, hey, follow me on social media, to continue them down that content pipeline so they continue to learn and build that trust with you, where then you nurture into that, funnel, lead magnet, whatever you want to call it.
What role does positioning and niche play in making a podcast successful?
Yeah, I think, we're going to see hopefully a lot more hyper-local shows actually starting. That's something we've been talking about here in our community, in tandem with live streaming it. I think live streams are going to be huge going forward. Again, with AI, just being able to talk to someone unproduced, have interaction online, live streams will be big. But hyper-local ones are great. We have one in Get Indiana here, Get In. Huge, because it just talks about Indiana. So it's super hyper-local.
Okay.
You could go even more local into like the area cities. But people are going to be interested in that. They're interested in what's going on around them. They're interested in their story. That's them, their state, or just a topic in general. I think being specific is important for that. Again, kind of why we're sort of rebranding ours, so we can be a little bit even better growth within search engines when people are searching for the show. Because we want to help people elevate their lives and businesses. And so we're a little bit broad still, but you could go, you could be as specific as, we help millennial males, become better dads and business owners. Like, that's more specific. And so if your messaging is that continuously, and you talk to those kind of individuals' pains and wants and values and things like that, you're going to get a better following, a better community. It's not necessarily about having thousands and thousands of listeners necessarily. You could definitely get to that, but having a solid foundation of people who truly value your show is better than just billions or millions of generic people just tuning in. So
quality over quantity.
Yeah, for sure. Do the best you can with quality, and then be able to do more quantity as you get used to it.
So you work with established businesses. What separates a six-figure business using content from a seven-figure business using content, or even an eight-figure business?
Yeah, a lot of it is just the amount that they're able to put out, produce. They know their messaging better too. A lot of the bigger ones feel like they're more broad. So eight-figure businesses, they talk to kind of a broader general market, and they are pushing products a lot more, or openings, where smaller businesses, they're a little bit more targeted. But the coolest thing with most of these is once you build that relationship and you show what you're able to do and do for them, they're like, okay, let's do it. Payment, let's go. And that's, I think, a separation too, is the mindset there. Once you've built that trust and they see the ROI, they see the benefit, there's no real hesitancy on it. Pay, get it done, get the results, and then let you do your thing, which has always been great for us too. The ones that are always dragging their feet of like, oh, can you take this off or take the price down here or there, always the hardest to work with. But I think the bigger businesses we've worked with, they just kind of they trust you to come in as a professional, as the experts, and do, what you talked about doing to get them those results. And they just kind of let you do their thing. They just want updated and analytics and like more data driven, I guess, with it. So
let's say I'm a company new to content creation, right? Mm-hmm. We've been old school all this time. We've been running ads in trade magazines and exhibiting in trade shows and very conventional things. And then, my grandkid said, "Pops, you got to get into the real world, right? You got to start making content." Okay.
Yep.
Let's assume I have no idea what that means. I've never even heard the word podcast before. So I reach out to you and say, Chris, help me. We want to join the 21st century here.
Sure.
What does Elevate do? Do you offer to produce podcasts for your clients? Do you consult with them on building their own studio and the right gear to buy and how to do it? Where do you fit into that to help someone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hypothetical me that just needs to start producing content.
Yeah, so it's been a great journey. We've actually morphed a little bit from just straight podcasts to more like the digital growth agency. So we'll come in and we'll visualize, or we'll see the concept of where you're at, what you've been doing, who your market is, and then we're going to help you build out that new structure, that new campaign. And if podcast fits in that, great. I think most people can benefit from it, but we look at that. And so where is your market heavily at? What platform? And then we tailor it to that first and really create a strong presence, a brand voice, and awareness there to get people engaged to that point. Like I said, podcasts can fit into that for content. Again, to build trust with, your spokesperson, your CEO, whoever's going to be, especially if they're smaller businesses, who's that face that people can start trusting more. And then as we adapt and shift through those brand awareness, visibility pieces, then we start doing the nurturing and lead generation into more deals, more business for you. But we've got to be able to bring you into the now and become more relevant, become more visible in your areas, and a lot of that starts locally too. So, and then we use connections we've built around the country to help you get in the right rooms as far as PR, to be seen, to get connected with the right individuals that can maybe get you in events or things of that nature. So we kind of built it out, a full approach for those campaigns and for that brand awareness and growth. 6, 12-month campaigns, and we always reiterate after that, to make sure things are working correctly with KPIs, with the metrics we collect. But we got to start with make sure we understand who your audience is. Make sure you know that. What's your brand voice? What's your brand messaging? And how are we going to portray that on the correct platforms? If it's a podcast, great. If not, it's not for everyone, but I think everyone could utilize it. And then which platforms we're going to build out to get you the best results.
If someone is starting from scratch in terms of content creation, whether it's a podcast or a webinar series or just video content in general, what are the first 3 things, let's say, that they should focus on?
You gotta figure out who your audience is. You've got to know your market. That's the biggest one. So you know how to speak to them. So you know how to show up. Are they the ones who are going to resonate more with content that's a little bit more trendy? So, the dancing stuff, the voiceover, like the different things that trend well. Or is it going to be more professional people who are going to be put off by that type of content? So knowing who your audience is first, that market demographic will be huge. And then you got to, again, the next step is, okay, what platform are they on? So with that platform, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok, X, whatever it is, podcasting, what's that format? What does that need to look like? Because they're all a little bit different and they all, push things a little bit differently. So what is that format? Let's get really good there and let's just own this area, this platform before we try to expand out. And then once you have that figured out and built in, how can we nurture the people who come and are engaging with that content? So are we going to set up an automation where a post has a call to action that's, comment, elevate if you want to grow your business. And so people who comment, elevate, is there going to be an automation sequence? Is it going to be, if they send us a message, an automation sequence? Is there going to be, manual outreach? What can you afford? What can you implement to nurture even more those people who are giving you their time? And from there, you keep building out that pipeline to bring them into sales.
And speaking of time, we're almost out of it. So just a couple more questions.
Okay.
Where do you see the future of content and podcasting going over the next several years?
Yep. I think we're in a great spot with podcasting, video podcasting specifically. I think leaning into live streams will be big. Just again, I reiterate that AI's here. Obviously, it's going to not go away. People can create content so rapidly, and it's becoming very realistic in some aspects too, which is kind of scary. So having an actual person from the company speaking on a live stream, where right now it can't be faked and you can interact with someone in real time, unproduced, unedited, I think that'll be huge for people. So that, I think business who can lean into that, even specifically hyper-local companies who can do that, I think will be very big for just that trust building a lot faster in the ecosystem we're in right now with content and technology. I think it's not content necessarily, but live events. I think we're going to go back to seeing more live events, in-person events, because we are relational creatures. We're built for community. We're built for connecting with one another. So I think we're going to get back to seeing more events. Those could be live streams. We've had conversation with some events here to, you sell 80% capacity and then you open up virtual tickets. The experience will be a little bit different, but it opens up another tier for revenue and impact. So I think that will be something we see more of, hopefully.
Kind of the baseball model there, where at least back in the day before all the premium channels started getting contracts for specific games, a local game would be blacked out unless they sold out. And once they sold out, they would put it on television. And so kind of the similar concept to train the audience to buy tickets, which is their main goal, not train them to just stay at home on their couch and watch
exactly.
it. So,
because when you go, obviously, the experience is different. You miss out on some things if you're not in person, but at least you can still, garner some more revenue, some more attention virtually after that number. And then the third would be, going to your question is CTV. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that for smaller companies to be able to advertise, create video ads for these streaming platforms. We're starting to see it from our clients. We've done a few of those for individuals clients, and I think we're going to start seeing more people want to do that, specifically even to geotag locally, hyper local channels and streaming services. So
yeah, it's not all Netflix and HBO and
Right.
Amazon Prime and all
exactly.
Apple TV. It's a lot of times it's just your MacBook Pro or your laptop.
Yep.
I forget the stats. I should look this up. If I find that, I'll put it in the show notes on YouTube status in terms of a content provider compared to traditional satellite or over-the-air based platforms like the ones I've mentioned. There are a lot of people who get exclusively all their content from YouTube, and and that doesn't require SpaceX to launch a satellite.
Right.
Maybe somewhere behind the scenes it does, but not just for their content.
Sure.
Okay, last question. Yep. I think you said Elevate was around. You're in about the 5-year mark now. Did I get that
That's
correctly?
correct. Yeah, in the fall. Yep.
So go back at least 5 years, maybe even before.
Yeah.
How did you define success before you had any experience with entrepreneurship, and how do you define it now?
Yeah, I think when I was first starting out, success was just, can I improve a little bit today? Did I get better today somehow? Like what was something positive? And I think today is still the same, really. I think, again, we talked about at the beginning, new levels, new devils, but I think still staying in that vein of like, hey, how did I improve today? I'm not perfect. I've got a long way to go. What did I do better today? And did I do something today that I enjoyed? Like, what's the whole point if I can't enjoy this journey? Like, if I'm not enjoying it, like, might as well just go get a job, work for someone else, and call it good, right? So what about this journey today did I enjoy? I think that's something I've added into it. How have I improved today? And what have I enjoyed about today? Because there are some really crummy days in entrepreneurship. There are really days that just nothing, everything seems like it's going wrong and that it's all collapsing. But can you still see something small, like something good still from those times? So,
and contrary to popular belief, you can definitely have crummy days, plenty of those, but it can be lonely as an entrepreneur.
100%.
People don't realize that because you're surrounded.
No.
If you build a big team, it's easy to be surrounded by people who know who signed their paycheck. And you kind of get the emperor's new clothes thing, where they may or may not be totally authentic with you. And ultimately, people don't see the super long days and nights. They don't see the all-nighters that you pull. They don't see you
they don't see
on vacation.
No matter what you choose, it's wrong.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I had conversations with my wife even with my wife. I was like, it was just a lot happening. I had to make some choices. They were hard choices. Nothing was going to be right. And it was stressful. And, she was asking me well, what can I do? And I was like, nothing. And I said, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful or mean. I was like, you don't understand. I said, even being married to me, and no one else understands besides people who are in business. And I don't have that many friends who are in business like that. I say, it just is so different. Like, any decision I make out of the 5 choices I have are wrong. They are going to be hard.
Just a degree of wrongness, right?
Pain. Yes. There's a different level of pain to each one. I have to choose those type of decisions over and over throughout this journey and hope I pick the best wrong choice and keep moving forward on top of everything else, life, being a dad, trying to stay healthy, trying to be a friend and do all those things. So there's been those conversations of just people, they don't understand and they're not going to. So again, to your point of being lonely. Yeah. A lot of times I mean, you're on an island. You can be in network groups, you can be in coaching groups, but no one knows 100% what you're going through. They know things that are similar, but it can definitely be lonely, and you got to be okay with that. And having good connections helps because you can kind of vent a little bit. Again, they might not understand, but at least you can let it go. But and just have some anchors that keep you grounded and keep you focused on the positive. For me, faith, working out, my family, things like that. So,
yeah, that's great. We did accomplish our goal. One of the goals of the show I mentioned earlier is to de-romanticize entrepreneurship. I think we've both done a really good job at that. Now, for my audience who were thinking of starting a business, and may feel completely discouraged after our conversation, let me ask you this, Chris. Would you do it again tomorrow?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. No regrets?
No. I just, one regret. I wish I would have done it sooner. I talk to kids who are like in college and they're starting businesses. I'm like, man, you got 10 years on me. That would be fantastic to go through all that crap sooner.
They can make all the mistakes you made earlier in life and start enjoying the fruits of what they've learned from those mistakes earlier in life.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I started my business when I was 32 years old. So I started quite late. I'm 65. 65 now. So, almost half my life doing this.
Yeah.
But Chris Anderson, Elevate Media Group, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's always good to have business owners talk to other business owners and compare horror stories. And it's almost like playing poker. Oh, yeah? I'll raise you. I got a better story. Right. So it's always good to be able to exchange our experiences in entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And for my audience, if you're watching this on YouTube, look down here where it says see more, and there'll be links to Elevate Media Group or whatever he decides in the future to name the company. I'll also put links to his podcast. It's the Elevate Podcast or Elevate Media Podcast?
Yeah, so Elevate Media Group name's not going to change unless something crazy happens, but the podcast is right now the Elevate Media Podcast, and the name's going to change here this year. So
okay, well, the link will still work either way. So
for sure.
For those who are listening on your favorite podcast app, once you reach your destination, don't do it in the car. We need all the subscribers that we can get. We don't want to lose any that way. Once you can, look at the show notes on your podcast app, and all the links will be there as well. Chris Anderson, thanks so much, and continued success. Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for everything.
Thank you. All right, here's a few final thoughts. If there's one thing to take away from this conversation, it's this. Content by itself is not a strategy. It's a tool, and like any tool, its value depends entirely on how it's used. Chris makes a clear distinction that many entrepreneurs miss. There's a difference between being visible and being valuable, between creating noise and creating demand. Because at the end of the day, a business doesn't grow because people saw your content. It grows because the right people took action. So maybe the better question isn't how much content am I creating, but is this content actually moving someone closer to a decision? That shift in thinking from output to outcome may be the difference between spinning your wheels and building something that actually works. Now, that's a wrap. Thanks for being part of our Reluctant Entrepreneur family. We've been exceptionally busy recording future episodes with fascinating guests, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, we'd love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneurpodcast.com to apply or recommend a guest. And if you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup, From Uncertainty to Unstoppable, it's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon and as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. And to everyone listening or watching, if you find yourself stepping into entrepreneurship, whether by choice or by circumstance, remember this. Sometimes the path we never planned becomes the journey we were meant to take. Thanks for being here. I truly appreciate you. I'll see you again soon.